What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of National Pastime. John Toaster and J Rob here for the Super Bowl picks and preview. It's like the excitement, yes, but also the sadness, the last game of the year. We're going to get to the game, obviously,
About the
give
Pro
you our
Bowl. Is the Pro Bowl not afterwards?
yeah, the Pro Bowl's afterwards. It's still in Hawaii. You know, who the fuck cares at this point, right? But we're going to give you our picks for the game. We're also going to get into our picks for the NFL honors. We might discuss some of the odds there, but I think most of them, I would assume, are going to be pretty lined, but worth discussing anyway. And then we'll catch up on some of the news that we missed in between our last recording. Some of the coaching hires, Tom Brady, that guy, he retired. So we'll get to that stuff. But starting with, yeah, or did he? He spent a couple days with Giselle and the kids and was like, never say never. But yeah, we'll get to the game here. The Rams are the away team in their own stadium. They are 4.5-point favorites against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. This one, from a betting standpoint, is really, really tough for me because you look at this and it's like talent-wise, not even close on these rosters. The Rams defense has flashed like some dominance, and they're in the back of my mind. There's always this potential that the Rams just absolutely like go ham in this game and the Bengals can't catch up. But there's something magic about what Joe Burrow and the Bengals are doing right now. And Toaster, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to make you pick first. Where are you going in this one?
This is one where there's two outcomes to me. Bengals win straight up, or the Rams absolutely decimate them. And that's why I would suggest teasing the spread up to 6.5. Still keep it within a touchdown because I'm not that ballsy. We all know my record. We don't need to repeat it. But keeping it just under a touchdown puts it to plus 120. That means you're making more money than you're willing to bet. And to me, that's just since we can't parlay today, unless we do, over-unders too, that makes it just interesting enough for me to say, let's put some money on the Rams, because I'm worried about the Bengals getting into too big of a hole again. They've done that multiple times this year, and that offensive line is absolutely abysmal compared to the defensive line for the Rams. I don't see how they're going to stop them. It's going to have to be short, quick passes or prayers to Jamar Chase, or I guess quick slants and let him run 62 yards and take credit for 14, 30-plus yard touchdowns if you're Joe Burrow. They're going to have to get the ball out quick, and that's not something that they're going to be able to be successful with. I think Jalen Ramsey wants to prove that he's still the shit in this league and will try to lock up on Chase any chance he gets. We don't have Uzama, CJ, yeah.
Uzama.
We don't know what his status is right now, but I think that that's a safety valve that ultimately Joe Burrow is going to need. Drew Sample's, passable, but the talent discrepancy is too big here, and the Cinderella story only goes so far. And ultimately, I want the Rams to win at this point to keep the NFL interesting from the trade perspective that we've already talked about, right? Screw your picks. Let's get some actual veteran talent in here. They're in a terrible cap situation next year with a lot of people they need to re-sign, but go all in, win the Super Bowl at home, and I'm taking the Rams at -6.5.
Okay. For the sake of this, then, are you saying that if you didn't get to move that line, you would be on the bench? You'd still take the Rams?
I'd still take the Rams, yeah.
Okay. You would just feel better about it.
Well, no, it's just I want to maximize my profit, right?
Right.
There's no, I don't get to, Kyler Murray, as far as I know, is not playing this weekend, so I can't parlay this with something else. So if I've got to make it a little bit more intriguing to me, I think, I was pushing this all the way to just under 10, quite frankly, but don't want to get
the total's 48.5. If you wanted to parlay that, and I don't know how you're feeling about that ultimately.
So that's a 24-24 tie, and if you push one team over, Damn, why is Vegas so good at setting the over-unders? I'm gonna go with the over on that one. So I'll take over and 4.5. Wait, under in 4.5.
Okay. Okay. Flip flopping. That's okay. Nobody's going to hold you accountable other than me. So, yeah, I can't really disagree. Like, I am curious to see if Jalen Ramsey does shadow Jamar Chase, because I think that is going to have a huge impact on this game ultimately. Um, but this is just one of those things where I feel pretty comfortable saying that Joe Burrow is the better quarterback based off their play this year. And I like the idea of the better quarterback getting points, especially more than a field goal. And, the Bengals haven't had any blowout wins in a while. Their run through the playoffs was, led by the leg of Evan McPherson. But, I think keeping it close enough is, I don't know. What worries me, I suppose, with this is I could see a scenario like you said, where the Rams come out to a big lead, and the Bengals are playing catch up, and they're chipping away, but they're down 5-6 points, and they have the ball like last drive of the game, right? So there's no way you're kicking a field goal. You're not covering your bet that way. It's basically like you said, win straight up, or the Rams cover. So it's tough. My head says Rams, my heart says Bengals, and I think I'm going to go with my heart in this one, and I'm going to take the Bengals plus 4.5. It's hard to explain, like the run that they're on, right? It's like it's very unimpressive in a way, but I don't know, the teams that find ways to scrape out those wins, I just can't cut them out. Count them out, and I can't count Joe Burrow out right now. So I'm going
It's
to take the
hilarious
Bengals in the points.
because you're the one that got me on the Joe Burr train, and I've been riding the Bengals the entire playoffs,
Right.
contrary to what you've been doing.
Yeah, I
Now
know.
we finally flip flop. Do you want to know what my biggest hesitation is? I alluded to it last week. It's that this is
What's
the
up?
start of the Evan McPherson, Adam Vinatieri dynasty, because when 2001 Super Bowl against the then St. Louis Rams, heavily favored against some no-name second-year quarterback and
Mm-hmm.
an elite kicker.
Mm-hmm.
New England Patriots, with maybe a little bit of extra tape that they probably shouldn't have had, get the job done, and maybe that's the storyline. I mean, that'd be an awesome storyline. I'm with you. My heart's with the Bengals, my head's with the Rams,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, I think it's better for the league if the Rams win, because that just throws so much more variables into player acquisitions, what the GM's going to do moving forward, because draft picks may not be where ultimately the value is if the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. J-Rob, where are you leaning here? We're split.
So I'm going to bet with my heart and my head and go with the Bengals. I actually had a future on
I
the
couldn't be less afraid.
I had a future on the Bengals when they made the playoffs, so that's probably the driving force behind it. But I think the biggest elephant in the room that you guys haven't mentioned is Matt Stafford hasn't had a blow-up game yet, or a game where he's showed his Detroit self in the playoffs. He had a throw last week that obviously, no interception. You can't drop an interception because it's just a drop. But
Right.
like, biggest stage, biggest pressure, it's in a vacuum. Everyone's watching. Is it possible that Matt Stafford ends up just shitting the fucking bed? Because it's possible. We've seen it this year in primetime games. We've seen it in the regular season, and he was one bad pass away from it being something that cost them a Super Bowl. And I don't like to say someone's due for a bad game, but I think that's something that's concerning.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, it's like we've seen enough flashes of bad Matthew Stafford this year in big moments, frankly, like big games for them. Games against divisional opponents, games on prime time. And it's fair to question, whether that's in the back of his head to some degree. I mean, you look at the run, the Cardinals game was really non-competitive. He didn't really have to step up too much there. The 49ers, like you said, he made a bad throw there. The game against the Bucks also, they were up by a lot, right? So he never really had to feel the pressure throughout that game for the most part. So I'm with you. I mean, that's definitely something, if you're into vibes with your bets, right? Like that's got to be something that's in the back of your head for sure.
And I'm for sure just trying to justify or like will those bets to win.
Right.
Excuse me. I do have another question for you guys. Similar, speaking on like Jalen Ramsey covering Jamar Chase. Obviously, Burrow loves to go to Jamar Chase, but do you think the height and size of Boyd and Higgins could present problems if Jalen decides to shadow and just because I mean, he throws it up to Higgins quite often too. Like he's not scared to let Higgins go get the ball. Do you think there's other receivers that could cause problems for the Rams secondary?
I mean, they've got the safety with the most tackles in the conference championship week in Eric Weddle. So no, that does not scare me. Just fresh off of his 2-year retirement.
Yeah, he was saving it up for this game. No, I mean, T. Higgins to me is like as big an X factor, in this game as you're going to have from either side. I mean, he's the guy that can absolutely take the game over if he doesn't have Jalen Ramsey on him. And man, I mean, that's a great call. It's Boyd to me is less of a game breaker. Like Higgins could legitimately, if you need to hit big plays to keep up with the Rams, he's your guy you're going to if Chase is going to be in a battle all game with Jalen Ramsey. But I mean, the Bengals there's talent on the team. I know we don't know about CJ Uzama, but like even obviously Joe Mixon, right? But we saw the play last week with Samaje Perine catching that pass, that slip screen and going 60 yards for a touchdown. I mean, they have guys they can get the ball to. It's really going to come down to, is the shoe finally going to drop for Joe Burrow and this Bengals offensive line against what the Rams do up front? Because to this point, he's been able to maneuver and, make it work. And is Aaron Donald and Von Miller, are they just going to be too much? Yeah. And, that's where it scares you. I think that the Rams could have a blowout situation here because of those guys.
I'm just worried that the Rams are better at too many positions of importance and match up that much better. I would give the nod to Joe Burrow right now over Stafford. Probably give even the nod on the receiving core for the Bengals over the Rams right now. But their linebacker core, their secondary, their defensive line, the stats that stand out to me, if you look at the comparison between these two teams, they're basically identical on points per game, points allowed per game, total yards. It's when yards allowed comes in, and the Rams allow 100 less yards per game than the Cincinnati Bengals right now. Everything else is basically even. So as long as Stafford's not making mistakes, I think that the Rams are able to cruise. And I think they got over their demons a little bit with that win against San Francisco last week. I think that it's something where they won't let down at this point when they saw, okay, that was a demon that we need to get off our back, especially at home. We hadn't won 6 straight games against them. Now we did it coming from behind. We've got this. And I mean, obviously Joe Burrow and the Bengals are playing with house money at this point, but I think that the Rams there's too much talent, too much veteran leadership on that team to let this one get away from them.
Yeah, I hear you there. But another element of, I guess, the Stafford, storyline to this game is you hear a lot of people the last week or so talking about his legacy. And if this game, what this game means for that legacy. He obviously has the volume passing stats, right? You add a Super Bowl to those numbers, and it probably puts him in a pretty good position to make the Hall of Fame, especially if they continue to have success as a team over the remainder of his time in LA. But, how much is that going to weigh on him too in these moments? Is that going to be... I don't think it necessarily plays in like play to play, but is he going to be sitting there in the huddle thinking, okay, it's 3rd and 5. I need a big play here. And he does a little too much, fumbles the ball, throws a pick six, like, are those, it's hard to, I don't know. You don't want to get into psychoanalysis too much with these guys, but like that, I know just from a human standpoint has to be something that it's on other people's minds, right? So
100%. And I get where you're coming from completely. And what he needs to realize is that they probably don't win if he needs to be the MVP. There's too many other positions. If they can get Cam Akers going for 2 touchdowns and 150 yards again,
right.
that's what they need to dominate the game. If they just get the ball to Cooper Kupp and let him run free for 2 touchdowns, 150 receiving yards. If Aaron Donald I won't put money on Donald as the MVP because I think that the Bengals are going to pay too much attention to him, and it's going to be Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, somebody else coming around getting the job done. But there's just, if Matt Stafford accepts that he's not the MVP of this game, then I think it's smooth sailing.
Yeah, that's the recipe for success for the Rams. Absolutely. On the flip side of this, though, from a legacy standpoint, there's only 4 quarterbacks. I say in the history of the league, but all of them are since 1999. So I guess, you can throw that out the window to some degree. But
since the Tom Brady era.
Yeah, well, slightly before. But only 4 quarterbacks in the history of the league have won a Super Bowl within their first 2 years. Kurt Warner, 99, Tom Brady, 01, Roethlisberger, 05, and Russell Wilson in 2013. And you look at all of those.
Patrick Mahomes had like 6 Super Bowls already. 4 years
Yeah.
in the league.
Unfortunately, I think his first one came in year 3. But you look at all these other guys, right? Warner had the greatest show on turf surrounding him, right? Brady had Belichick and an absolutely stellar defense. Roethlisberger had a stellar defense and a great run game. And Russell Wilson had one of the best defenses of all time and Marshawn Lynch to lean on. And Joe Burrow's doing... Yeah, right. Joe Burrow's doing this with a mediocre defense, absolutely no offensive line. And he does have skill talent around him, but he is the straw that stirs the drink for this team.
And not much of a running game to support it. I mean, Mixon hasn't averaged over 4 yards per carry he's done it 1 game since November. Right? I mean, he hasn't eclipsed 100 yards. He's only got 2-3 touchdowns since then. This is Burrow's team, and watching him scramble around has been absolutely magical against the Chiefs and the Titans. I just don't think that he has the speed to keep up with the rest of the Rams defense at this point.
Yeah, we'll see. But if he does pull this off, we're looking at the start of what could be a really special career. Now, that said, it's like, all of these guys ended up doing all right. All 4 of those previous names I mentioned are very likely going to find themselves in the Hall of Fame one day, but or one of them already is. But there's no guarantee you ever get back, right? Like Dan Marino made it his 2nd year, never made it back. But I really think like Joe Burrow, and we'll get into some of the honors and stuff later on, but like if he's not the runaway favorite for comeback player of the year, I think we're looking at things incorrectly with some of these other guys. But I think big legacy moment ultimately for both of these quarterbacks for various reasons. But I think Joe Burrow's the kind of guy that will be motivated and will play better because of it. And in my mind anyway, Matt Stafford is the kind of guy that will go the other way. So we'll see how it plays out. I
mean, it's a great legacy game all around. I bet against my bets all the time. That's why I'm not sad about being sub 500 from time to time. But to me, this is a great legacy for the state of Ohio, potentially, right? All those Cleveland fans that have been suffering for so long. And all you had to do was draft a quarterback at 1st overall. That was the secret. And
that's all you had to do?
It would have been good.
Yeah, okay. Oh God, I don't even want to think about like what the streets of Cincinnati are going to look like if the Bengals win. Actually, if it's probably going to be bad either way.
They've already canceled school on Monday. They
Right.
don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. All right. So J-Rob and I are on the Bengals, and Toaster is on the Rams. Any lasting points on the game here, guys? I mean, it's the last one.
Do you guys want to do Super Bowl MVP predictions? Who do you think is going to pull out the Super Bowl MVP?
Do you have odds in front of you?
Let me.
He can while I'm doing. There is one more storyline that has popped up that technically there's a heat advisory for this game. Not
Really?
sure who ultimately that favors, but yeah, it's going to be 86 degrees in Los Angeles, and they're playing under basically a heat lamp, is what I think the roof has been described as. So that first half kickoff will be in not as bad a sun as the Dallas Cowboys have to deal with in all of their afternoon kickoffs. But it is something that needs to be considered, that, the Bengals have been playing in, Arctic temperatures, whereas the Rams have had a little bit more acclimation to what we would call closer to summer weather. But yeah, actually a heat advisory.
Okay. I was not aware of that. I mean, I think personally the Bengals are going to welcome it. The Rams, you get soft sitting in nice weather all the time in LA. It gets over 90 degrees and people freak the fuck out. So
that's true.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Super Bowl MVP odds. Matt Stafford leads the way at plus 135. Burrows at plus 225. Kupp 600. Donald 1200. Jamar Chase 1600. Odell 2500. And then Cam Akers rounds it out at 3000.
Kupp to me at plus 600 seems like the best bet there. If we're just going off quick glance. What about you, Toaster?
Kupp would have been mine at 600. It's not quite rich enough for me. So if I'm going to throw my money away on not taking quarterback, I probably go Cam Akers at that point and say if they can ground and pound and establish this game in his hands, that, I mean, it's much more likely that a wide receiver is going to be able to run away with this than a running back. But if they're able to get that running game going, that it plus 3,000, I can't say no to that one compared to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, to be successful, you're going to have to asterisk it with Matt Stafford at the very least, right? So it's kind of like cannibalizing your own odds there, unless he's the only one doing it. Quarterbacks are always favored in this, and it's going to take a special performance. And I said earlier, 150 yards, whatever you want to call it, rushing, receiving, and 2 touchdowns, that probably gets MVP for one of either Akers or Kupp.
Yeah.
Assuming the Rams win. So you're taking Kupp in a losing Super Bowl to be the MVP, or you're just saying the Rams
I
are
have
going to
4.5 points there, bud. I got 4.5 points.
Rams win, but Bengals cover. Is that where you're at?
I think that's ultimately where I'm leaning. Yeah.
I mean, if I forgot the Bengals winning, then I think Joe Burrow's going to win it. Like, no matter what happens in that game, if the Bengals win it, it would take like Jamar Chase having like an all-time playoff performance for Burrow to not get it,
which may not be out of the question.
That's true.
And plus, you said he was plus 1,600. That's pretty good
for Burrow or
for Chase.
Oh, for Chase, yeah, 1,600. But just to be devil's advocate for your guys' MVPs for the Rams, I do think Donald at 1,200 could be sneaky. He could have a very Von Miller Super Bowl 50-esque performance, just destroying the interior of that line and not really giving Burrow a chance to go places because their edge is good. That if we're going to the narrative that if Matt Stafford doesn't have to be MVP, they're going to win the game, then I think Donald is a decent bet at MVP.
All right. So we got 3 Rams as lined up as MVPs and only 1 straight up Bengals victory. Okay.
So book it. Bengals and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, but I'll still be screaming at the rafters for fucking the Bengals to get this done. Believe that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll be rocking my Joe Burrow jersey all day, that's for sure.
One other narrative that I saw scrolling through some of these odds, the last 12 Super Bowl matchups, the team with the better overall record is 1-11. Is that concerning if you're a Rams bettor?
No.
I wouldn't. That wouldn't factor into my head necessarily. but
Okay.
you know, these teams were separated by what, 2 wins in the regular season.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be one thing if, you said there was a gap of X number of wins, like the team that had 4 more wins than the other team lost, or I don't know, like to me, the 2 wins, that's not really.
I mean, yeah, we're also
much.
talking about the Patriots for 5 of those matchups right there. So I mean, you got to put a little context on anything here. That
Sure.
yeah, the Eagles weren't supposed to win, and they just played fantastic in that game. And again, it's Tom Brady for most of this. So I don't put much, just like I don't put much in historical stats for these teams. There's too much turnover from year to year that's saying,
Right.
even the 49ers winning 6 games in a row against the Rams, spectacular, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to lean that way next year.
Right, for sure. I mean, frankly, I don't even go back more than a month when looking at, performances to make picks with this
Yep.
stuff. It's playoffs is a different animal.
Yep.
Super Bowl is a different animal. So we'll see. All right. I think that does it for the game itself. Do we want to transition to the NFL honors picks?
Can we actually make this competitive instead of the fucking Pro Bowl?
The NFL honors?
You
Yeah.
didn't like the 2-hand touch
Can we
rules?
do full contact NFL honors, just like forearm shiver into Goodell's chest as you're shaking his hand?
Seriously though, like, is the Pro Bowl, how much longer are we going to do this song and dance with it? It's meaningless, right?
It's-
Like,
Still makes money. It was the least watched Pro Bowl since like 2008, 2009, and it still beat NBA All-Star games, which are also, about as much contact.
yeah. I mean, I would watch the skill competition stuff, like the
Except you didn't
dodgeball.
watch the skill competition stuff, right?
Well, no, I didn't watch anything, frankly. But like, if that's all the weekend is about, and like truly, like, seeing the best of the best compete at either like 40-yard dash times or
Elevator rides.
obstacle courses, yeah, elevator rides. Like seeing Kirk Cousins try to throw balls through holes in a board like that, I don't know. That doesn't really do it for me. But yeah, I just can't imagine, like, that was embarrassing, frankly, for the league from my point of view.
Yeah, 6 interceptions in the first, I think it was the first quarter, but at least the first half for your, premier quarterbacks. It's just, this is a sport where you don't just get to schoolyard ball if you're not going all out, right? Like schoolyard ball, all out, run around, have some fun. That's awesome. But if you're just going to get 8 seconds in the pocket and just wait for somebody to pop open, then what's the point?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so we're going to skip the Pro Bowl, is what
Okay.
we're saying.
All right. MVP
NFL honors. MVP. You want to start us off, Toaster?
Sure. So there's only one choice here, unfortunately. And I know the NFL doesn't like rehashes, which is why the MVP is never the offensive player of the year or the defensive player of the year. I just think that there's only one way you can go with this one, and that's Aaron Rodgers. He just did too much for that team. You saw what Jordan Love was when when he wasn't at the helm. They won the most games in the league this year, and he had another spectacular season. So to me, Aaron Rodgers runs away with this one because the ball's in his hands every single play. I want a Jonathan Taylor. I want a Cooper Kupp, but they are game flow dependent. It's kind of like a pitcher, right? Starts off with him every single time. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt being the most valuable player on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I think Rodgers is obviously the favorite here, right? But I would go Brady. Looking at this, Brady threw for 1,200 more yards, 5 more touchdowns. He had to deal with all of the injuries that the Bucs dealt with all year. And I know the Packers dealt with a lot of that too, for the most part. But I think the deciding factor for a lot of people will be looking at that interception number and seeing 4 for Rodgers. But frankly, like, I don't know, just perusing, the quarterback stats on Pro Football Focus. Brady and Rodgers had nearly identical turnover worthy play rates. Like Rodgers just got real lucky this year. You have to get lucky to have that low of an interception number, frankly. I don't, I doubt voters will take that sort of thing into consideration. But if it were me, especially with the narrative of him retiring, I'd be going Brady.
I don't not like that money pick just because, again, the league's about narratives. And if Brady says he's retiring, going out, leading in stats and getting MVP, sounds like just enough to persuade him to stay the fuck out of the league. And maybe that's what 31 other owners want. So they might curtail. Not that the NFL would ever do anything nefarious to make, their interest known. But
not.
that is something. I think. J-Rob, are you on the same train as John?
I am. I think it would be hilarious for the NFL to kind of be like, "Hey, Aaron, we know you're really good, but all the fuck shit you did this year, you're not getting an MVP, which means you're not getting a fat bonus, and we're going to give it to Tom on his way out. So sit on this and spin, bud."
Yeah.
So
well, and when do we know when the voters have to have their votes in?
It's supposed to be within the first week of after the end of the season, I believe. So
okay.
It is a regular season award.
Yeah, I know it's a regular season award. I just wasn't sure if it was like, they didn't have to cast their vote until this week or something. In which case, the Packers' abysmal performance against the 49ers would have had to play in people's minds. But yeah, Rodgers, if he wins it, it would not surprise me one bit, obviously. But I think Brady's got as good a shot, as Rodgers does at this, in my mind.
Yeah. MVP voting was done by January 9th, the start of the wild card weekend.
Okay.
Super wild card weekend. Sorry.
Get it right.
Brand name.
All right. Offensive player of the year.
It's a toss-up between Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor, both at -110.
Wow, they have the same odds.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think it's Cooper Kupp, and it's not even particularly close.
I think it's Jonathan Taylor, and it's not even particularly close.
What? No way. I mean, Taylor had a great year, but we're talking about like
he led all other running backs by 500 yards. He basically had a third of the season on every single running back behind him. And you had Carson Wentz as your quarterback trying to basically make a playoff push. Everything, all of the success was on that defense and Jonathan Taylor controlling the game. Cooper Kupp had a fantastic year, otherworldly year, but I don't think that you swap him out for Robert Woods and OBJ, some other combination of wide receivers, and you're dropping off anywhere near as far as you are if you're dropping off or taking Jonathan Taylor away from the Colts.
Yeah, but this isn't an MVP award. This is purely a performance-based award.
Yeah, I agree. So the best offense, the most valuable. No, I'm kidding. The person that contributed the most to the offense to me was Jonathan Taylor.
I mean that's fine. I get that argument, but we're talking about legitimately like an all-time season from Cooper Kupp this year,
and an all-time season from Jonathan Taylor. He had 20 touchdowns.
20 touchdowns. How many yards did he have?
Over 2,000.
1,300.
2,000 total yards, you're saying?
Yeah, 2,000 total yards. Jonathan Taylor was over 1,700 yards rushing easily, J-Rob.
Look it up. Let's look it up.
Well, I thought that's what the intern was here for, not just spout out random ass stats.
He did have 1,800 yards. And yeah, he had, let's see. So he led the league in rushes, yards, touchdowns. He had 18 rushing touchdowns, and yards per game, 106.5 yards per game. He also added 2 receiving touchdowns, 40 catches, 360 yards. Yeah, that's pretty good. 2,100-ish, 2,200 yards total. Yeah. All right. I mean, it's closer than I thought it is. I don't know. Cooper Kupp, and again, narrative, how much it plays into this whole thing. But Cooper Kupp was like the darling of the NFL this year when it came to like individual player performance. I'm shocked that it's even, or I would have been shocked, I guess, that it's even odds. But looking at Taylor's numbers, I could see it happening for sure. I'm leaning Kupp though.
I just think about how much more in control of his own destiny Taylor is versus Kupp, and that's where, to me, that's a better offensive performance to outscore Kupp by 600 yards, 6 TDs, and he's got to do this with a team that had zero offense to speak of outside of him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're not going to convince me that Carson Wentz opened up running lanes for Jonathan Taylor necessarily there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna go rapid fire then. If we're good to move on, or J-Rob, what was your pick?
Mine was Jonathan Taylor, but just because it was the 5 touchdown game, I think that helps kind of swing something in your favor if you have an all-time scoring game like that. Not all time, but like 5 touchdowns in a game is nuts. And so I think that kind of helps swing it.
Yeah, and if you took that game out, he'd still lead Kupp in yards and touchdowns.
Well,
all right.
Shit, let's go look at touches. I mean, he had what? We said he led the league in rushes, 332 rushes, an additional 40 receptions. I mean, if we gave Cooper Kupp the ball 370 times, I'm sure we'd see
call him Deebo Samuel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I think we can push through these next 3 real quick. Let me know if we are not consensus on this. Defensive player of the year, TJ Watt. Offensive rookie of the year, Jamar Chase. And defensive rookie of the year, Micah Parsons.
Yep.
Honorable mention, Patrick Surtain, but he will not sniff that award. But yeah, shout out to the only decent person on that team right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Comeback player of the year. I think everyone knows where I am on this one.
Kim Kardashian. Oh, no. Dax at -140, Burrows at +110, Nick Bosa at 6,500.
I had Burrow. I told everyone to get on the Burrow train at +600. I can't believe he's still positive at this point.
I can't either.
I get that this is a regular season award. Playoffs aren't allowed to be included, but just what he was able to do with that team, with that offensive line, to me, they're coming off of an injury. The only thing that can be counting against him, I guess, is that he didn't have a full season his rookie year. So how was it a comeback year? Because he never was there.
I don't know, man. I mean, that is shocking to me. I had in my notes that Dak is probably closer than people think, because in my head it was like no fucking question Joe Burrow, right? But I cannot. There's no way I could pick Dak Prescott over Joe Burrow in this.
Is this just the interceptions thing that you said would win Rodgers the award, that because Burrow led the league or was super high up there in interceptions, that they're going to hold that against him?
Maybe. I mean, Burrow had 200 more yards. He had almost 2 more yards per attempt. He only had 3 less touchdowns. Like, I don't know, man. That's pretty crazy to me, honestly. Plus, Joe Burrow led the league in completion percentage. Like, that's crazy. Because in my mind, like, Dak's year was very uninspiring, based on the expectations that we had for that team. But, man.
Do you think the severity of the injury affects the odds or affects the comeback, potential of it because of how just nasty his injury was? Whereas Burrow, people are like, now like, oh, ACLs are, not a big deal anymore. Whereas his was like a reconstructed leg.
It wasn't Alex Smith level. Like, I don't think anybody was upset giving Alex Smith the award last year because, he legitimately almost died. I don't think Dak was ever to that point. He already had his, light in the sun with Hard Knocks this year. I don't see where these numbers are coming from, quite frankly. So thank you for letting me know Burrow's still positive. I'll put some money on that one.
Double down on that shit. Yeah. The other element too is Hard Knocks playing into people's minds here, where Dak's like comeback narrative was heavily pushed
Mhm.
in Hard Knocks. So, maybe that's on people's minds too. But I mean, that's crazy to me that Burrow's positive and Dak is that big of a favorite. But I'm going Joe Burrow.
And I mean, just think about the talent around them. Yeah, the Cowboys won 2 more games, but it was expected that they make it back to the playoffs, right? The Bengals, some idiots had their coach being the first one fired this year, and now they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Idiots.
Yes, some idiots, right? All right. Yeah, I'm on Burrow. Are we all on Burrow? Like, if we had a vote
for those odds, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Well, speaking of Zach Taylor and people that wanted him fired, he makes the list of NFL Coach of the Year. The odds are Mike Vrabel at -185, Zach Taylor at +250, Matt LaFleur at +350. I'm actually really shocked by some of the people that did not make this list.
Brian Flores.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's got to be Vrabel.
It's Vrabel for me.
I know Taylor, is got to be on people's minds as well, but they locked up the number 1 seed. They were without Tractor Cito for all that time. I mean, the coaching job that he did to just not even keep them afloat, right? Like, I would have been like giving them a fucking golf clap if they made the playoffs, and to secure the number 1 seed, like, that's impressive as hell to me. The one name that I would be tempted, like, if I had a vote, would be Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I don't think you can give it to Bill over Vrabel to me because of that streak they went on in the middle of the season. I mean, they had a 6-game win streak, and that came against Buffalo, Kansas City, Indianapolis, the Rams, and the New Orleans Saints. That's just, to me, that's saying it's a coach that's getting his team ready week after week against the best competition, and that's 3 playoff teams and then 2 borderline playoff teams that were in it right till the very end. That's a hell of a stretch to do that. Yeah, Buffalo, Kansas City were at home, but still, there wasn't a stretch like that for anybody else except for the Indianapolis Colts, and they started off 0-3 when they went through that same stretch.
Are any of you guys surprised that Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay did not make the cut?
I'm not, because I think that it was just too inconsistent throughout the year, in my opinion. I know this is somebody that, the Titans lost to the Jets and they lost to the Jags or the Texans, but those are anomalies.
I mean, I also think this award almost always comes down to who exceeded expectations, which is why Zach Taylor is going to be a heavy favorite here. But, if you would have told somebody before the year that, hold on, let me pull up Carson Wentz's numbers here, but that Carson Wentz would throw for 3,600 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions for the Colts. Jonathan Taylor would have 2,200 yards of offense, and the Titans would be without Tractor Cito for the majority of their season.
And without Julio Jones for a decent portion of it. I mean,
yep. And the Titans were still going to be the number 1 seed. You'd be like, you're fucking high. There's no way. So that to me has got to be the tiebreaker there. Yeah.
To me, it's Vrabel. John, you got Vrabel. Where are you landing, J-Rob?
With those 3 that are there, I would probably just go with Zach Taylor just for the sake of them being in the Super Bowl. I know it's like, this is another one that's regular season, so it'll probably be Vrabel. Yeah, Vrabel would be the safe one, but Zach Taylor definitely, is enticing at +250.
All right. Well, we'll find out on Thursday where we land on this. It sounds like we got a pretty solid parlay going, at least on Defensive Player of the Year, and then the 2 rookies. What were those odds for those 3? Just to do the quick math on how little money we would make parlaying that.
For which ones? The rookie ones?
Yeah, the 2 rookie ones and Defensive Player of the Year.
Parsons is -10,000. Jamar Chase is -250. TJ Watt's -350.
-2,000.
Or 10? No, 10,000.
10,000.
Chase?
Oh, no. Jamar Chase is -250.
Oh,
Micah
okay.
Parsons is minus
Micah
10,000.
Parsons is minus 10,000.
Oh,
But
okay.
still,
Holy
TJ Watt's minus
shit.
350, and then Rodgers is minus 400. Those are like the biggest favorites. The rest
You
are in like
guys-
the hundreds.
Do you guys all want to go in on 1,000 to win $3?
Yeah.
Dude, that would be
pretty
one some
$30
bet too, where like one of them doesn't hit, and you're like, what the fuck?
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
worth it.
congratulations, Micah Parsons. But yeah, no one's betting on you.
All right. Let's get into some of the talking points of the week, I guess, before we wrap up here, unless any lasting points on the honors. No. All right. So obviously, the coaching candidates, all of the open positions have been filled. We now have Mike McDaniel is the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Lovie Smith is the fucking head coach of the Houston Texans. Dennis Allen gets the Saints job. Of those, the Lovie situation has to be the weirdest, right? Like that feels very much like it was pressure put on them to.
I think it was just a typical Patriots front office trying to think that they're ahead of the rules, and they hired a minority coaching candidate from a coordinator position. They were expecting 2 third-round draft picks out of it.
Yeah, they just didn't realize. Yeah. They're like, wait, so how does that work if we? Yeah,
it's
fucking galaxy
it's
brain.
It's got to be your bowl.
Yeah. I mean, good Lord, their process. I mean, we talked about Doug Peterson landing with the Jags last episode, how we liked the result. The process was atrocious to get there. The Texans are in the same boat. This process was dog shit, and you can tell they were just dying to hire Josh McCown. But, and again, Lovie, good for Lovie. Not many coaches get a third shot. I think I'm a little biased, but I'm cool to say that I think he deserves another shot if, the candidate pool is what it was at this point. But, or especially if he's going up against fucking Josh McCown. But this to me almost underscores Brian Flores's point that even when Black coaches are getting these opportunities, they're often getting less than ideal opportunities. And from what I've seen, the reports, Lovie's deal is expected to be shorter term, which obviously, right? And we're just going to go into another situation where it's like, unless he fucking surprises and makes the playoffs with a dog shit roster, like there's no fucking way these guys aren't canning him next year. It's just, it keeps the cycle going. And God damn, I mean, it's such a bad situation.
This is 100% the Brian Flores lawsuit working. And it's an interesting paradox here, because if he hadn't filed his lawsuit as early as he had, there probably isn't a minority head coaching candidate for the Texans. There may not be for the Dolphins either, and it could have been a complete shutout. And technically it was a shutout, just to be clear. There were 9 head coaching vacancies. 7 of those were for non-minority candidates. Those 7 teams hired non-minority candidates. The 2 teams with minority head coaches that were fired hired minority head coaches. So we're just at status quo in the league. But the part that gets interesting here is that you aren't allowed to retaliate for seeking legal action for discriminatory practices. And the Lovie Smith hire, him not being within the top 3 of the candidates publicly admitted to by the Texans, it was Brian Flores, Josh McCown, and Jonathan Gannon. And then they back out and they hire their defensive coordinator, 31st in the league defense last year. All the overachieving to me was, you got to attribute to David Coley at that point, who got canned. So you're hiring somebody from that same coaching staff that wasn't responsible most likely for their success. And Brian Flores has an even better lawsuit now, second lawsuit, that says now not only was there discriminatory practices in the beginning, but there was retaliation that he can seek after now, and that looks like a pretty slam dunk opportunity for him right now, in my opinion, because Lovie Smith wasn't even on the radar.
Yeah. Fucking wild, man. Absolutely fucking wild. Also, Mike McDaniel being
Multiracial.
I don't multiracial came as a complete shock to me. I was like, whoa, okay. But good representation matters, so it's better than nothing. All right, outside of the coaching news and the Brady stuff, maybe I feel like we need to give more time to it on its own later, maybe after the Super Bowl.
After he finally retires.
Yeah, the single biggest story of this week, to me, was Kyler Murray purging the Cardinals from his social media altogether. And what is the motivation here? I know he's eligible for an extension now, but he was gonna get the fucking bag anyway. And like, the Cardinals aren't gonna trade him. There's no fucking way. Like, who are you? It just makes no sense other than him wanting to throw a little bit of a fit. And
How
I
about
know
he
he
throws
has,
fucking completion? Because the last game he threw in, he had an 8 QBR rating.
yeah, for real. I mean, I know he seems to be lingering the baseball thing a little bit, but Jesus Christ, man. I mean, what is he doing right now? I don't get it.
It's unfathomable right now what is going on in his mind. He's in no position of leverage, especially with that collapse at the end of the year. To me, I think that he's doing this to try to keep Cliff Kingsbury around. Like, I really can't think. I told you the only thing that I could absolutely see him doing this for was to leave for baseball. But I'm sorry, dude. Tim Tebow left for baseball too. And 3 years off of trying to hit a curveball, you're not going to be the same dude that you were going to be when you were drafted first overall. And the money's not there. There's no way you're making as much money in the next 3 years in the MLB as you will in the next, in your 5th year contract, or your 5th year option that you would be in the NFL. So suck it up. We don't always like our bosses, and go about this like a man. I just don't like it. Legit to me is a little baby back bitch crying right now. We gave you, or the Cardinals gave you DeAndre Hopkins. Without that, holy hell, I don't even know where we'd be in this conversation, because that he's bolstered his career better than anything else that you ever could have surrounded Kyler with.
Well, and it unfortunately just lends itself to continuing to push the narrative forward that he's kind of a bad teammate, right? From what we saw at the end of the year and him pouting on the sideline and all that stuff. I mean, I don't necessarily, like to buy into that stuff without proof, but it's like we've now had multiple instances towards the end of the year when they were struggling, and then now with his social media thing, that it's like, is it a big deal? Probably not, right? At the end of the day, I don't know what it changes, but if you're his teammate, it probably doesn't make you feel very good. I'd be texting him like, bro, what the fuck's going on?
Sticking around right now. I just don't. He has zero leverage. Again, he's under contract for next year. He's going to be under contract for a 5th year option, because they're probably not going to extend him at this point. And I don't think you can extend him, because you don't know if you're going to want Cliff Kingsbury next year or after next year, right? And the next coach that you bring in may not want Kyler and that drama or that contract with him. So it makes zero sense for the Cardinals to extend him early. He hasn't proven anything. Yes, he's a 2-time Pro Bowl quarterback, but I think we've all seen that we just need to get rid of all the incentives regarding the Pro Bowl at this point, because if we're going to your 6th, 7th alternate and calling that a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback like Mac Jones was this year, like that's not actually a stat anymore. So you can call yourself a 2 out of 3 year Pro Bowl quarterback, but you didn't play like that or earn that in any way whatsoever.
Right. It's confusing ultimately is what it is. And I would love if he came out and said
Do you
what
think
was
can he
going
just not
on.
like see the keyboard? Is the desk too high? Maybe he delete on accident.
He's like, "Oh shit, my
Yeah,
bad." Yeah. I don't know. It's a bad look though.
The part that was weird to me was the timing. They've been out of the playoffs for a month, seemingly, and it happened the day after the Pro Bowl, which he was around a bunch of guys. It's not the first time that we've seen high level athletes at the top, like Kyrie and KD talking in the All
Mhm.
Star game in the tunnel. Like we've
Mhm.
seen it happen before. Do you think there's a player or players that were at that game, probably an NFC team? Do you think there was anyone in Kyler's ear trying to maybe poach him out of Arizona?
I mean
Well,
the betting odds are the Bucks, right? Plus
yeah,
500 for him to play on the
and the
Bucks.
one photo that he kept that has any sort of tie to the Cardinals, which is him in a Pro Bowl uniform, was with Mike Evans next to him and talking about the Texas connection. So yeah, I guess like maybe there's some of that, but there's no way like the
You're,
Bucks can't put together a package for Kyler and
you're
the
taking
Rams
the
or
30th overall pick for the next 3 years, and
right.
Kyle Trask.
Right. The Cardinals aren't doing that. Like, no way in hell.
I don't,
They'll tell Kyler they'll call his bluff and say, "Yeah, sit out the whole fucking year. We don't care,"
I
before
don't know.
they trade him for pennies on the dollar.
Kurt Warner came and rode off in the sunset in Arizona. Maybe Tom Brady wants to do the same.
trade trade for Tom Brady's rights. That
Yep.
would be like such an Arizona sports team move though to pick up like the corpse of somebody and try to revive them for a
I
year or
mean,
two.
let's just. I think we can not call Tom Brady a corpse at this point. I
Right,
think that
well, right.
considering
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have him as two of us have him as the MVP front runner here.
Fair,
But
fair.
yeah, there's no leverage. It's just it, like you said, he's already had question marks about his leadership, and this did nothing but make those bold, italicized, and underlined. It just is
Yeah.
a terrible, terrible look. To J Rob's point, if you were going to do this and try to play it off as okay, I need to start fresh on the season. You do that right after the playoff loss. Like you just
Mhm.
say, okay, we're cleaning house here mentally. I'm gonna go do my Buddha shit in the end zone and clear my mind. And that season's gone. And let's prepare for the next. Doing it after the Pro Bowl just means that he was looking for some sort of attention, and he's clearly getting it. But there's not going to be any action that can come out of this. I mean, if Russell Wilson wanted to throw a tantrum last year and try to force his way out of Seattle and it was nowhere near working, there's no way you're going to do that on a cost controlled quarterback for the next 2 years.
Right, exactly. We'll see. Maybe he'll pull an
Maybe he'll
oopsie
grow up.
next week.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much taller he's going to get, but um, all right. I think that about does it. Anything else before we get out of here, guys?
No, let's send this season off and, a beautiful Super Bowl. Hopefully it's competitive, unlike some of the more recent ones, but always entertaining. We got Snoop Dogg at the halftime show, so we'll see what song he's ultimately able to play. I don't know if he's got a rendition of Barney and Friends or something that's made for TV, but like it should be a spectacle. LA is going to play it up, and I'm going to have that TV on far, far before the game to be a part of that experience because I'm sure they're going to do it upright.
Oh, for sure. All right. Well, I think that does it for us then, guys. Everybody, thanks for listening to our Super Bowl picks and preview. Um, bittersweet, but I'm excited for this game. So, anyway, that will do it, and we will catch you later.
Go Bengals.